It's July 15th. We're in a regular town board meeting format. Charlie Madigan will be here in a few minutes. She actually just picked up a couple of kids who are worried about the lightning, and she's driving them to their home. So that's what's going on that front. So she'll do attendance officially in a minute or two. Right now, we just want to get things started. I'll just note that there is a flood watch for later tonight and tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Also, when it gets a little wet on the tile floor out here, it can get slippery. I almost just had a fall, so please watch your step if there's droplets of water from people's shoes or umbrellas or what have you. We will be using an executive session a little later for a couple of items, which I'll describe when we get closer to that point. And there are a few new business items on the agenda, which we'll discuss when we get to them. But having said that, I would like to ask Esther Baitler to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have our public comment period. Thank you, Esther, and thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I'll make a motion. Well, actually, we'll make a motion to begin our public comment period. Can I have a second on that, please? Second from Divney. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. We do have a little timer there. It's got a 3 on it. I'm wondering if there was a sign-in sheet placed out there or not. Was there? John, you got that? Thanks a million. Thanks, John. I'm sorry, I just jumped over. We had actually put up presentations before the public comment. With the consent of the board, I'd like to follow the agenda as it was laid out and give our presenters a chance to say what they need to say and hit the road if that's what they choose to do before it really starts raining. Is that okay with everybody on the town board? All right. So sorry about that. So first off, we have, and actually Charlie's not here, and she was going to present the check to Mary Cardenas. So let's wait a minute on that. But we do have the petition for a zone change at Orangeburg Commons. Geraldine Tortorella is here. Mr. Rick Burdoff is here. Mr. Rossi, and they have a few display pieces related to a request for an amendment, text amendment to the zoning ordinance that they'll describe to you, which has to do with the Stop and Shop hotel complex and a parcel of land which is right behind it, which they'd like to see incorporated into their shopping center development. And we're here to hear a little bit more about that. There was a petition submitted describing the change sought, which was distributed to the board, which is available in the background, going back a meeting or two. And we're actually being given a aerial photo of the site right now, if you guys want to pass that down. The town board has received an aerial photo, a site plan, a little bit of a drawing of what the new parcel would look like, with sort of a concept for its proposed development, for some shops, an elevation for that showing what it looks like from the front, and some pictures of what the site looks like.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can't, I will pull the microphone closer, but I'd like to be able to orient my presentation to the drawings. As you said, my name is Geraldine Tortorella, and I'm a partner in Hockerman, Tortorella, and Wexstein, and our offices are in White Plains, and we're the representative and the attorney for the two applicants on the zoning petition, FB Greenbush and FB Orangetown, both limited liability companies. FB Orangetown is the developer of the Orangeburg Commons shopping center that has been approved over the last several years and developed. We're here to discuss the zoning petition that we filed on behalf of those two entities, the goal of which is to have a change in the zoning code that would allow an abutting piece of property to the west, that's about a 1-acre parcel owned by Mr. Graff's family. And I'm indicating where it is right here. This is Orangeburg Commons. This is Route 303, Orangeburg Commons. This is the Stop and Shop. This is the hotel, both of which have been completed and are open. And the site that we're talking about currently has access off of Greenbush Road, and it's right in this location. It's currently a sand and gravel operation off of Greenbush Road. And our client has a conditional contract for that property, and the intent is to be able to have it rezoned so that it could be developed for mixed-use purposes in coordination with and to be functionally integrated with the Orangeburg Commons Shopping Center. The site does not qualify for mixed use currently. It is in the LI district, but it is not large enough to take the benefit, realize the benefit or take advantage of the benefit of the mixed use development under the LI district, nor does it have frontage on Route 303. So we need this zoning amendment in order to accomplish our objectives. We proposed zoning text, and the idea we had was to create a new special permit, which would be a mixed-use expansion special permit that would apply to properties that were anywhere between a ½ acre and 2 acres that abut an existing developed mixed-use special permit property and be used for the same types of uses that are allowed under the mixed-use district, provided that the smaller parcel or the expansion parcel would be functionally integrated with the larger mixed-use development. And by that, we mean in terms of access, parking, pedestrian and traffic circulation, utilities, drainage, landscaping, building design, and other infrastructure kinds of features. So the idea that we had was the benefits of doing this would be to take property that was underutilized, smaller pieces of property that were underutilized and that would be difficult to develop for commercial purposes or industrial purposes, and be able to make them have greater utility when used in conjunction with abutting mixed-use properties. It enables us to take advantage of existing infrastructure. It allows the smaller parcel to have access through the larger mixed-use development. The benefit of that would be to direct traffic to signalized intersections, which is always considered a benefit in traffic circulation, as well as taking it off local public roads. In this particular instance, the proposed expansion parcel is indicated here, this building. Again, we have Route 303 down on the bottom. We have Stevens Way, and this is the main entrance into Orangeburg Commons. The concept is to have all traffic come in through Orangeburg Commons. We would have some sort of directional monument sign that would direct you back to the building in the back. And then parking for the building in the back would be in this general vicinity and also along the front of the building with a nice walkway and planters. And they would operate together and they would be functionally integrated. We would be maintaining the access off of Greenbush Road, which would bring deliveries and probably employee parking. That's what these parking spaces would be used for, around the back of the building, but we'd have circulation back around to the front of the building and through Orangeburg Commons for exit purposes and for traffic circulation purposes. The sand and gravel operation wasn't really compatible with the hotel use. And what we were finding was that it creates an eyesore. We wanted to be able to take that use, improve its aesthetics, have it benefit the hotel operation because it's very close in proximity to the hotel, as well as make some productive use of this site. If we're not able to proceed in this manner, the property stays in its current ownership, and the house is still there, and the property could revert to its prior use. So this is really, we're here this evening to talk to your board about the prospects of being able to achieve these objectives and get some feedback from your board and see if it's something that your board would be amenable to, because we think it's a win-win all the way around. Another benefit to our particular site is it would create a nice synergy between the hotel use and hopefully the second hotel at some point in the future, and the uses, the services, and other uses that we would find in the proposed expansion parcel. Our occupants of our hotel are asking for food services and other services. They're looking for opportunities. There's a built-in automatic synergy that would exist between these two, which is another benefit. There's an automatic demand almost built into building on that particular site. We have proposed to keep the uses that are in the mixed-use district the same. We're not proposing any different uses. We are proposing some tweaking of the area and dimensional and bulk regulations so that we can have the functional integration of the two sites. And by that I mean the zoning text that we've proposed, and we're certainly open to discussing other ways to do it, but our idea was to be able to treat the mixed-use expansion piece and Orangeburg Commons as one for purposes of evaluating and achieving compliance with the area and bulk requirements, so that you could have parking on Orangeburg Commons that would serve the mixed-use expansion parcel. You could have some signage that would relate to it. In terms of utilities, we already have a sewer connection tap in place that could serve this building. All other utilities would come off of Greenberg Road. They have water in that location and on some of the other utilities that are available. We have evaluated drainage. We are confident, after having our engineer look at it, that any of the drainage that would be runoff that would be generated by the development of this site could be connected into existing drainage pipes that are on Orangeburg Commons, and any increase in the peak flow that we would realize or have resulting can be handled from the detention basin down at the frontage of the property. That actually has an excess design capacity, so we have confirmed that we'd be able to handle the additional drainage from that. We also looked at traffic to make sure that this is something that could work for us. As a condition of our highway work permit for Orangeburg Commons, the DOT required that we do a post-development traffic study after some of the uses were up and running. So that was done earlier last year. And what that traffic study showed was that the traffic generated both by the existing buildings and the traffic that we project would be generated on a full build-out is significantly lower than what was originally projected using the Institute of Transportation Engineers figures. What that means for our purposes is that even when you add the additional traffic that we're anticipating from developing the site, we would have sufficient extra capacity in the transportation system so that we don't need to make any changes or improvements to the road network. We would not have any adverse impact on traffic. And in fact, what the traffic study, the post-construction traffic study showed was that we were actually improving traffic conditions in the area because of the lesser generation of traffic than was originally projected. This visual aid was developed just to give you an idea of what we were thinking in terms of style and design, and just to show you how we would actually envision it would be developed, although again, would be fully subject to review and approval by your board, by the planning board, and by ACABOR. This is the elevation, the front elevation and the two side elevations. We're proposing some different treatments. We're proposing an awning. We're prepared to use stone veneer to have an attractive complement to the existing buildings on the Orangeburg Commons site. We've got some planters shown in that area. We're looking to wrap some of the treatments around the sides of the building so that the view of the building from the sides is also attractive. A lot of times people just do the front and don't do the sides. We have the sides covered. We aren't really envisioning doing much with respect to dressing up the back of the building, only because the parking there is really going to be limited to employee parking. And then it's built at an elevation where it's actually, we're going to be cutting into that hillside and would be lower in elevation from the properties, the residential properties that are on the other side of the railroad tracks. So we're not anticipating any ability to see the back of the building or any visual impact. But again, we just wanted to give you an idea of what we were thinking about in terms of the design. We've got a nice sidewalk along the front of it. We've got some planters, and as you can see, the majority of the parking would be in front of the building and then also on the balance of the Orangeburg Commons site. We did take a look. We took a look at what it would look like from Route 303 because we know that that's a matter of concern both to your board and to the planning board and to ACABOR. And what has been done here in these views is to show, this is view A, and it's from 303, I'm sorry, from the corner of 303 and Stevens Avenue, and view B is from in front of the site on 303, south of Stevens Way. And this is view A and view B. And you can see the building, and again, the bank building is not constructed yet, so that's not factored into here. But just based on the view of what's already constructed, the building's there. It's visible. We think it complements the Stop and Shop building and complements the hotel, and in our view, really doesn't have any adverse visual impact. I mean, it's in the background, but it's not a predominant feature in the background. In terms of height and materials, it has a nice complement. It is a one-story building we're proposing. I should have mentioned that earlier, so that there's a nice complement between that and the existing buildings on the Orangeburg Commons site. We envision procedurally that this would be treated much the same way as the mixed-use special permit is treated, meaning that this board has special permit review and approval authority over the concept plan. Should that be granted, we would move on to the planning board for site plan approval and to ACABOR for approval of the aesthetics, the architectural design, the landscaping, the lighting. Signage is always something that is reviewed by ACABOR and the planning board as well. And that's what we were envisioning, keeping pretty much the same kind of procedure as you have currently for the mixed-use special permit. We're happy to answer any questions, but we didn't, and I know it may seem premature to have developed the plans this far, but we wanted you to see how we saw the sites working together and how we saw them integrated with one another and how we actually would implement the legislation that we're proposing to your board.
So just to be real practical here, first of all, it's an impressive presentation. I think I, for one, I think everybody's been pleased with the development of the Stop and Shop and the Marriott Hotel and how that business is going. For this particular, what you're looking for from the town board is essentially a referral to the planning board to get a perspective on it, and then for the town board to act on creating this amendment to our zoning code.
Yeah, we filed the petition and we filed an environmental assessment form. And what we'd like the board to do, if the board's inclined to continue to review this, and we hope that you are, is to declare your intent to be lead agency, because secret is something that has to be dealt with. We do think it's appropriate to refer it to the planning board when, provided your board has gotten answers to any questions it might have, and we're here to answer those questions. And then ultimately, eventually, in hopefully the not too distant future, to open it up for public comment and have a public hearing. That's a necessary requirement. To us, it would seem appropriate to do that sooner rather than later. but I also believe that you'd want to get some feedback from the planning board as well.
That's what I was thinking too.
And you know, starting the secret process does not commit you to any particular course, but it would just, that's something that should be started as soon as in the early in the process as possible.
Where is the development in terms of the second hotel, proposed bank, and proposed restaurant?
The second hotel is currently still on the shelf. We don't have any, you know, we need a couple of years of operation of the resident inn hotel before the second hotel is anticipated to be constructed. So we don't have any immediate date of when that's going to be constructed. We're very close to having a deal on constructing a bank. And the restaurant, we have not had as much success getting the kind of tenant that we want for the restaurant, but we're continuing to pursue that. And we're not proposing any changes to that aspect of the site plan.
Will any of the proposed uses in the new building compete against the proposed bank or proposed restaurant so that it actually hinders your plans to put them in there?
The intent would be that they would not. The intent would be that there would be a synergy that would make them all work. The uses that we're proposing in the expanded parcel would be the same as the uses that are permitted in the mixed use. So it would include restaurant and offices and service establishments and retail. But we would hope that that would not be the case, that we would have that conflict. Because it certainly doesn't do us any benefit to have a bank pad approved in this location on Orangeburg Commons and not be able to lease it out and, you know, to cut off our nose to spite our face. And they are related entities that have the contract for the expansion parcel and currently the owner of Orangeburg Commons. So there's not, hopefully we would be smart enough not to create that conflict. And if you remember, well, you may not remember because it wasn't really necessary for us to come to you so much, but we originally had the approval for the bank in this location, south of the Stop and Shop building, and we were having great difficulty because there wasn't visibility. So we relocated it to the front of the property where we had originally proposed it, and we've gotten a lot more feedback and a lot more interest.
I have a quick question. So if I read this plan correctly, you're going to have approximately 11 stores, approximately 1,600 square foot store, making up the 18,000 square foot total. But there's very few spots unless you include the shared spots, parking spots. So there's very few spots for this new building unless you include the shared spots. What's going to happen when you build the rest of this out?
Good. There are a couple of questions in that I just want to address. We show on the elevation 11 storefronts. We don't know if it's going to be 5 or 6 or 10 or 11 storefronts. It's going to depend on the demands and requirements of the tenants who want to come into that space. So we showed it just for illustrative purposes. We have enough parking both for the full build-out of Orangeburg Commons and for the full occupancy of the expanded parcel. And the way that works is we actually have, just want to get the numbers correct for you. Orangeburg Commons has on it, let's see, I think it's 682 parking spaces. We need 592 parking spaces for the approved uses on Orangeburg Commons. So we have a significant excess. The excess parking spaces are mainly located in this vicinity. So if you combine these parking spaces, which are the excess, with these parking spaces, which are also on Orangeburg Commons, but they're excess, and these spaces on the expansion parcel, we have enough parking spaces to meet the requirements of the zoning code, both for Orangeburg Commons and for the expansion parcel. Now,
That was my main question.
right, but so that leads us to just explain, and I didn't address this, but we will need to create reciprocal easements in order for that parking to be used by the expansion parcel because it's on Orangeburg Commons. So we will deal with the legalities of that by creating the easements that are necessary to give the expansion parcel the right both for access and for the utilities, for the shared facilities between the two sites.
And Rick Burrow, just wanted to add a couple of things on, as to the, stop.
Yeah, Rick, could you just do a favor and actually use the microphone because you'll be audible to the room and to the television too.
My name is Rick Burdoff. I'm one of the principals at
You can pick it up if you want.
one of the principals at Orangeburg Commons. So just a couple of things. Before we came to the board, we had a Stop and Shop as a tenant at the shopping center, and they have consent rights over what we can and can't do and whether we can incorporate other properties into the complex. So we went to Stop and Shop as well as to Marriott and explained to them what we wanted to do and what we proposed to do, and both were supportive, gave us actually written consent, and were actually pretty happy about the change of the use from what the current use is there, what Tom and Charlie Graff were doing there, to what we proposed to do there. So those were definitely, and parking was a big consideration for them as to the potential, because they don't want their customers not to be inconvenient in their shopping. Same with the Marriott. So I just wanted to, we got their approval as well. And a couple other things, there would not be another bank in that strip center, in the shops. And as Jerry mentioned, we are very close to a transaction for the bank pad, that their footprint's a little bit different, so we'll have to go back to the planning board to change it, but it'll be in the same location that's proposed on the approved site plan.
I actually have two more questions. The other big section of property, which is behind, I guess it's Lowe's. Is there any plans for that? Because there seems to be a lot of construction going on there. I don't know if it's a rock crushing operation or something.
It was used during the course of construction. Both the Marriott and the Stop and Shop is really a staging area. So a lot of construction, because the site was tight while both buildings were being constructed. So there's some cleanup activities going on. Originally, way back when, we had a site plan approval for outdoor car storage. It was at a different time when the car dealerships were booming and they needed that. So we had a site plan approval for that. Whether it's valid or not, I don't even know. So we've had some preliminary discussions about some uses there, but really right now what we're doing is trying to clean up the site and just make it more presentable and get rid of some of the things that were stored there during the construction period.
And one more question. Last time you guys were here, we started preliminary talking about this. There was an idea of a zoning change for the second hotel. That gone?
Yes, that is.
Totally gone?
Yeah, we had some discussions about potentially an assisted living facility there. We're changing it. Yes, that is off the table. And just to bring up about the second hotel, all throughout the process, when we're going through the planning board approval process and before the town board, it was always our intention that the second hotel would come on later on down the road. When you bring on that many rooms in a suburban market, it just takes some time for absorption. The courtyard we have a Marriott Residence Inn. It's a franchise agreement with Marriott Corporation, and we actually, at the time, it was two franchise agreements, one for the Marriott Residence Inn, which is up now, and the other one is for Courtyard by Marriott, which is just a different concept that they have. And that Marriott franchise agreement is still in effect. They're interested in going forward. We just need to stabilize the hotel a little bit more, bring up the guests and get some stability, which is the typical. And the hotel actually is performing well. It's a little bit above what the expectations were. The hotels take a while to ramp up for people to know that it's there, and businesses to get their customers to stay there. It's an extended stay hotel, so it's primarily oriented toward business travelers. So you have to get the corporations to know that there's a new product there, and that's what's going on. We've been having some marketing. The Tappan Zee Bridge has helped somewhat, which will continue to help. We're attracting people from Montvale, for people who are coming in town for 2 weeks for business. Some people who are building a home, moving from one home to another, sold one. So but Marriott's happy with it, and we're happy with it. It's just taking some time. If I'm standing here throwing a dart at the wall, I'd say the second hotel is a year to 2 years away, but there's no plans to change. We did come before the board to talk about the assisted living, but that's not on the table.
Okay, thank you. This section here, the shops on Orangetown Commons, it backs up more towards the
residential behind it than the other buildings do, although I know it has to cross Western Highway. I'm not sure what the distance is to the houses there. And there's railroad tracks. So I'm not sure the distance, but is there any concern if, say, restaurants go in there with refuge from restaurants and any vermin or anything that may come for the trash, getting across and affecting the residential area? Or is there a big distance?
Yeah, I don't.
Or noise?
Your statement is correct that in relation to all of the other buildings in Orangeburg Commons, this is the one that's closest over to the residential neighborhood. But that neighborhood is separated by the railroad tracks in between. I don't know the distance, but I am certain that in the course of any site plan approval, we will have to provide adequate facilities for the disposal of waste products, and trash and whatever, like we do with Stop and Shop and like we had to do with the hotel, et cetera. So we're not anticipating that that would create an issue. That question was actually asked at one point, I think in connection with the development of Orangeburg Commons as well. And
Yeah.
to my knowledge, there has been no issue that's
Right,
arisen. I'm not aware of any.
right. And I only bring it up again for that reason. It is closer to the tracks and the
Right.
homes. But,
Yeah, just to follow up on what Councilman Moore is asking, are the dumpster enclosures marked on this site plan anywhere?
No, it's not that detailed. It's more
Okay.
of a concept plan.
The
And
planning board would
Yes,
weigh
and-
in on that.
yes, and we don't mean to suggest by not including them that we weren't anticipating them. It's just that it has not been developed to that level of detail. If I can clarify too, while Mr. Burdoff was speaking, I checked. It's the existing number of parking spaces on Orangeburg Commons is 668. I think I misspoke and said 682 or something, or 686. It's 668 existing parking spaces. So that combined with the ones that we're adding from the expansion parcel will give us enough parking for both sites. It's fully conforming. I just made reference to the wrong number.
Thank you.
You had talked about the requirements about traffic. Could you repeat that? I just want to hear that again.
We were required to do a post-construction traffic study by the DOT as part of closing out our DOT permit, which, by the way, has been closed out, so the traffic study met the requirements of the DOT. That required us to do actual counts based on the occupancy of Stop and Shop, the operation of Stop and Shop, and the Residence Inn. And we had to add to that the projected traffic from the other three buildings on Orangeburg Commons, assuming full build-out. The evaluation indicated that we are actually generating less, we are and will be generating less traffic from Orangeburg Commons than was originally projected in our traffic study. The idea behind it was that the DOT wanted us to test our theory as to how the traffic would operate and the improvements would function. If you remember, we did make traffic improvements in connection with Orangeburg Commons. We erected the light on Stevens Way. So in doing that study, not only did we look at the traffic that's generated by Orangeburg Commons, but they took, our traffic engineer, John Collins, took into consideration background traffic and increases in background traffic, and assumed that we would be at full build-out in 2016. So we did incremental increases over time to build up the amount of background traffic. And it indicated that even with the full build-out of the site, we are not reaching the levels of trip generation that were originally projected based on the data that we were required to use. When you don't have a development, then you go to the traffic engineers, the Institute of Traffic Engineers manuals, and they tell you how many cars you should assume are generated on, by this type of a use or that type of a use, and that's how you get your traffic generation. We are significantly below what was projected. If you add what's anticipated to be generated by the shops at Orangeburg Commons on the expansion parcel, the ITE suggests that it'll be just under, it'll be slightly less than 100 vehicles per hour from that site. If you add that to the trip generation from Orangeburg Commons, we're still below what was originally projected for Orangeburg Commons. That leads the traffic engineers to conclude that there won't be an adverse impact on traffic, and there won't be any need for additional traffic improvements or roadway improvements as a result of constructing the shops at Orangeburg Commons.
Now, say you do get the approval for the shops in Orange Commons, are you gonna do another count once you have the full build-out to see if there's traffic calming measures that are needed to, that's still gonna be on the plate? You guys are actually, once you have the full build-out, you guys are gonna, or is the DOT saying you don't have to go back?
No, DOT, unless we're doing improvements in the state right-of-way, we won't need any more DOT approvals in connection with the shops. And so there wouldn't be a reason or a time or a permit that would trigger the need to do additional traffic studies.
So it's just gonna be based on projected numbers from the tables?
Right. Well, the tables and then the actual counts that were taken with the two buildings in operation.
Okay.
But again, that, having said that, I mean, I wanted you to know that we did look at that question. We have the assessment that was done by Collins's office, and that is something that we're certainly happy to submit to the board and to the planning board as well.
I just want to know if we have a couple of our department heads, highway, building, if anybody wants to ask a question. Jim, are you all right for now on that? John? Okay. So our next step would be, what she wants us to do is declare ourselves lead agency for the purposes of a review and make a referral to the planning board, which seems appropriate to me. Is there any discussion on that as steps forward? Questions about process? The process would be the town board, if we want to support this and move it forward, declare itself lead agency, because any change in zoning requires a public hearing and a secret hearing. Right.
You adopt a resolution declaring your intent to be lead agency, then there's a circulation.
Okay, the circulation
period.
comes before our actual declaration of lead agency.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And at the same time, you could choose to send the petition to the town planning board for a preliminary review and recommendation.
Or we could talk about it more.
Or you could do nothing.
We have a workshop next week, and so we have options. Personally, I would like to see the thing move forward in the right way.
I just think that this is, the first time we really got a grasp of this new plan. I think we should wait at least one town board meeting to let the public come in and make comments if they want, because this is the first time they're really hearing about it too. So, I know there's a lot of steps they have to go through. I know that this drags on and people aren't for comments, and I don't want to see that happen. I just think it's quicker to declare us lead agency and kick this ball down the road until we get at least some input from some of our constituents.
But it's our intent to declare as lead agency. You're sending it to the planning board, they're reviewing it, it comes back to us. We have to have public hearings where the public will, by that time, it'll be in the R-Town. There will be people out here to talk for it or against it. And then at that point, that's when we're doing the permit, if we're going to change the zoning on that. So I don't see any downside to sending it out to the planning board at this time, all right, because you're still going to have the public input on it. And I understand your point.
With the way things are run on this board. I mean, you have it down as a discussion item. It's what I said at the last board meeting, there's a process. Workshop, town board meeting. We, obviously, why do we have workshops? Let's just get rid of them. Like I said to you today, Andy.
I think
That there's no need for them. We're not gonna follow the policy we have in place. You have a workshop, then you have the town board. And you're gonna say, well, it's time sensitive. Everything's
no.
time sensitive.
Actually, you don't put words in my mouth, Tom.
Okay.
Look, like I was just saying, I asked an honest, open question, clarifying what the process would be, and and obviously we want to have people have a chance to weigh in, but there are steps. So, you know, we can refer it to the planning board, and we can discuss it more, and we can declare ourselves lead agency eventually and have a public hearing. So all those things are going to need to happen if we want to move forward. The question is, when do we want to, you know, would you rather be having a public discussion a month from now, having heard back from the planning board, or having done nothing, I guess is one way of asking the question.
I'd rather have this as an agenda item on the next workshop and then your next town board meeting and vote on it then, and you can see the
Right, so,
agenda item in front of you.
okay, so one way to do it would be, we make this a workshop item, which is basically the question of whether to refer to the planning board and declare our intent to be lead agency. On August 15th, I think, which is when our next regular town board meeting is, we would have a vote on whether to refer to the planning board and in
It's
their,
August 12th.
August 12th. I'm just trying to figure out what the time scale will be so we understand. So if we do workshop and then we vote on the matter of referring it to the planning board on August 12th, we will then, there will be a circulation to the planning board and any other interested agency we want to hear from. We'll get that information back. Eventually, we'll be in a position to review that and have a vote to declare ourselves lead agency for secret review. If that vote is you know, majority support, then we'll set a date for a public hearing, right? So that it just, you know, there are steps involved. You know, what do you know, these are, I'm just laying it out. I'm not making a decision for you.
If this expansion happens, is this going to add to the assessment and the taxes paid by the property?
Oh, yeah.
Any idea how, a rough idea, range? I know you don't want to commit, but,
I wouldn't, I don't think I'm equipped or
Okay.
qualified to guess.
but there must be a decent amount for the size of the property.
It's approximately an acre.
It's something.
So it's a switch from light industrial to
So-
retail, so, yeah.
Are you proposing we do it tonight? Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking the question, initiating discussion. I'm really hearing that we want to make sure that we do it in a deliberate way. And I'm just thinking about it right now for the first time with everybody else, so. Is that, is what I described basically true as the process goes? We could workshop, we could vote to send it to planning board and intend to be lead agency on August 12th. We would eventually, I don't know how long it takes to get back comments from the planning board. Who else does need to go to, John? County planning. So we might or might not have it by August 12th. Chances are, we're not going to have
Gonna
anything
have it
back. from
August
that.
12th at nil.
Nil. So.
You know, it's the
so
summer,
that's the
it's not
decision.
happening.
So the
But-
question is, where do you want to be on August 12th? Do you want to have the planning board responses in hand, or do you want to be starting that process? I guess my inclination would be, I'd like to hear from those guys sooner rather than later and have public discussion based on full information.
You know, I doubly agree with Tom and Paul. I mean, this is happening too much. On the other hand, like I said last time, I don't want to penalize constituents or the taxpayers because of poorly organized meetings. We do have to get back on track and do this the way we're supposed to do it. There's a reason for the way we do it.
There's no poorly organized meeting here, Tom. So why don't you tell us whether you want to move this ahead
I'm-
or you want to delay it?
No, I want to make a point first, that this is not the proper procedure, but I...
What procedure are you referring to as not proper?
Workshopping, the purpose of the workshop is to discuss it then.
Okay, so.
But we got enough feedback coming in that I'm comfortable moving forward now because we're not making any final decision tonight other than getting more information. But, so I'm okay with it, but this, we got to
So-
start workshopping.
So I guess what you're saying is, what we have right now is a presentation on the regular town board. You would like to propose that we add an item to new business and vote to refer this matter to the
I'm
planning board.
proposing?
Is that what you're
You
saying?
proposed it, and I'm
No, I'm
agreeing.
not. I'm laying out what your options are. We're having a
I just asked you
discussion.
what your proposal was, and you said, yeah, I'd rather get the information sooner rather than later, which means we pass it tonight.
I would prefer that, but I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you.
Make a motion, Andy.
I want to hear, so you want to move ahead and refer to the planning board. You guys are opposed to moving ahead
I
for
didn't say
planning board.
that. I just, Andy, my whole point at the last town board meeting is, everything is always time sensitive. This letter.
I'm not
this sort-
saying it's a rush.
This letter is dated June 5th. This should have been on the workshop
No,
back in June.
Tom,
Andy.
Mr. Burdoff requested to be on for July 15th to make a presentation. I did not put it on as an agenda item for a vote. Okay, I did not do that. This is a presentation.
It's
If
a
you want to
presentation.
somehow make it into something it isn't,
But
then
this is
but we're
the
not
point I
having a
made at the
conversation.
last board meeting. It's that
You
we
don't want-
don't follow the process, which is the workshop.
So what
and
is wrong with having Mr. Burdoff make a presentation tonight?
I would have told them, you should come in last workshop so we could vote on
They
it.
didn't want to come in last workshop. We're making a presentation. So
I don't think there's anything wrong with them making the presentation tonight.
Of course not.
I'm not for putting it on new business, I'm for just waiting the meetings and workshopping it and then putting it on the regular agenda. I'm not against it.
I'm for
Especially
it.
this
I like
early
the
in the
idea.
thing, I just think that we should, what's the rush? Are they in a major rush? Are they gonna lose a
I didn't
grant
hear
or
anybody
something?
say there was
I
a
don't-
major rush.
Right, I don't think I think they'd be fine with waiting, and then I would feel more comfortable that a constituent had a chance. So I'm, again, I'm not saying that I'm against this or for this, I'm just thinking, I don't see what the rush is that has to go into new business. Let's just give the public a chance to see it, and I can get all my emails for or against,
Right.
and I may have more questions for them when we come to the workshop of the final vote.
So,
Well, you guys can vote on it. You don't have to get
I
consensus.
think it's fine for everybody to be comfortable. So do we want to have it on as a workshop item for next week and a vote on August 12th?
Andy, give me a break.
You got no's? You guys like it that way.
I like it that
You
way.
guys don't like it that way.
If you want to make a motion, make a motion. And it either passes or it fails. Make the motion. Be a leader. And
Yes.
also accept the constructive criticism that the two people on your left side are giving you. You're just letting it go over your head, pounding away here. You have two people who support sending this out to the planning board. You either want to get it done or you don't want to get it done.
I think I will make a motion to refer this to the planning board to find out more about what they have to say. I don't think that's an example of rushing anything. And I think that we will have plenty of time to discuss it further, especially when we get their information back.
You're ignoring their criticism.
I'm not ignoring anybody, Dennis. Does anybody want to second the motion of referral to the town planning board for
And-
comment?
And the intent to be lead agents.
Do we have to do both right now?
That's your attorney.
So I just did.
You could do anything you want.
All right, I make a motion. Yeah, we can play
I
guy.
didn't even actually have to figure out what he wants.
No. Dennis, I put an item on for a presentation because it was a request. If you want to criticize me for that, just be sure what you're criticizing for, which was giving Mr. Burdoff and his attorneys a chance to talk about their project. It was not a request to rush it. It was not a request to have a vote. Okay, now we're having a discussion about what to do next. I want to hear from the planning board what they have to say about this before we act further. And I would recommend, and I make a motion, that we send it to the planning board to find out. Do I have a second for that?
I will second that motion.
So we have a motion on the floor to refer the matter to the planning board. Can we have a vote? Maybe we need to have a roll call. Charlie, would you help us out with that?
Can I just ask what specifically is the wording? Because is it the intent for us to be the lead agency or the intent to possibly be the lead agent?
That wasn't part of the motion at all. Now, if you want the whole motion, if you want to move it forward, it's a legislative act, what's proposed. You are going to be the lead agency. There's no public input required on whether you should be the lead agency or not. Your motion would be to declare your intention to be lead agency, to refer to the town planning board pursuant to the existing town code for its review and preliminary recommendation, which is independent of site plan review. It's just, they give you their basic input. At the same time, it would probably be productive to refer it to the county planning department, which you have to under the general municipal law. Now, you may have to do that again in the future if changes are made, but you cannot take any action unless you refer it to the county planning department and they report back or 30 days have passed. The most efficient way to deal with it, once you decide you just want to go down the road preliminarily, is to do those three things at one time. I'm not sure, you have your process and you guys can decide how you want to, whether it goes on the workshop. There's not much to workshop on a motion to send something out for somebody's opinion. But if you want to put it on the workshop agenda as a matter of course, even for those perfunctory actions, fine, you do that. You're going to set yourself back 30 days, which may not be setting anybody back. It's entirely up to you how quickly or slowly, or whether at all, you want to move it forward. But if you're going to take action tonight on anything, I would recommend those three motions be made.
I think he's asking for the three motions and they want to take action. That's the way it came across to me, John.
Okay. So the three motions are that the town board declares its intention to be lead agency with respect to the proposed text amendment. As part of the motion, you resolve to refer the matter to the town planning board for a preliminary review and recommendation, and you further refer the matter to the county planning department pursuant to General Municipal Law 239.
That's well articulated. Thank you very much, John. So, as stated, we have a second from Mr.
Second,
Troy,
the motion as amended.
as amended. All in favor, say aye.
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 George, you want a roll call?
You want to do roll call, Charlie? All right.
If you want to do a roll
I said I got 3 ayes.
I'm only kidding.
You
I'm
got
only
any
kidding.
nays? Nays?
Supervisor Stewart.
2 nays. Okay, from Valentine and
Councilman
Bimini.
Troy.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes, with the knowledge that there will be more time for the residents to speak about it, and I'll listen as I always have. Yes.
No, and maybe they should have done a presentation.
Councilman Divany.
No.
Councilman Valentine.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to hearing more as we get more information from the various agencies. Good comment. We had another presentation item, which was presenting Mary Cardenas, the museum director, with a donation from the film company. Charlie Madigan was going to make that presentation. Would you like to speak to the matter?
Yes. Mary Cardenas, we're very excited, Mary and I. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it started out to be, I think, 500, Mary, and now another 250, so we're edging our way up, right? And I think Mary's very excited because she has a certain project that she has in mind, and this funding is coming in very important. And I might add that Orange is the New Black did give us this money before they were in the in-group. They were just starting out. So it was very nice. It was being a good neighbor, and it was, I think it was a very positive way for filming to go to make donations to the town that they're working in. And Mary will explain what her project is.
Thank you, Charlie. Is this on? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. The Orangetown Museum has in its custody, louder, does this work? The Orangetown Museum has in its custody right now about 20 books that belong to the town of Orangetown. Some of these books date back to about 1856, and they come from various departments, like the Highway Department, the Assessor's Department, and in some cases the books are falling apart, but also the ink that they're written in is beginning to fade. So I haven't had enough money in my budget at the end of the year to undertake the process of having these books kind of restored to where they're legible and they can be handled. So with the monies I'm receiving from Orange is the New Black, I'm going to start processing these books one at a time because they're really expensive. And it depends on the number of pages within each book as they're processed. So I proposed this to Charlie Madigan, and I think it's a good project with money that just came to us, and I'd like to go ahead and do this. So,
We're very excited. In fact, Mary has the book with her, but she actually can't pass it around. It cannot be photographed because if you pass it around or you expose it to light or you expose it to people looking through it, it actually damages the entire book. So instead of confiscating problems around it, we decided we're going to solve this problem. That's,
All right, and an extra $250.
and that money just comes in time for this.
Wow. So I'm seeing a handwritten page there in very neat penmanship.
It's from the 1800s.
That's amazing. So who was that written by? Is that somebody?
I think
one
it
of the
was
town
from the Lent
employees?
House, from my ancestor. I am,
So that is the actual hand of Henry
Yes.
Blauvelt, town clerk from the 19th century. Wow.
He- well, that's, yeah. Well, this is the one and only time.
and it's really well written, and you can come by and see it every time. So this is probably one of the worst of the bunch that I have, so I'd like to start off with that. So thank you. And
Thank you for
I
your
just
service.
apprise the town board of what I was up to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the update and the donation from Orange's New Black.
And
Sure.
and we can accept other donations, by the way.
Of course. Well, the museum can accept donations,
Exactly.
and there's a Friends of the Museum group that does
That's how
that.
we figured to get the money.
We did have an announcement. We talked about this last meeting about the Moody's rating. I'm not sure we need to revisit that unless everybody should know we had good news. Jeff Bensick, Finance Department, did a great job of putting the package together for Moody's, and they came back saying nice things about our financial standing. The next item on the agenda will be public comment. We actually already had a vote to open it, so let's take a look at the sign-in sheet. I'm seeing Joanne Coffee Fasulo. Go ahead, ma'am. And just if you can, speak into the microphone so that folks can hear you.
Applied Golf is the, okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
okay. Applied Golf is managing Broad Acres, which is a town-owned property, which means this is a public's work property. The agreement was signed between the town and Applied on 2/15 of 14 for management fees that totaled $580,000 gross, to be paid at 9 equal installments of $58,000 starting 2/15 of 14 on the 15th of each month through 10/15 of 14 for payments totaling $522,000. On November 15th, they will be paid another $29,000. That total then is $551,000, leaving a balance of $29,000, which is 5% of the contract. Depending on final profit and loss for the year, the final $29,000 will be a 50-50 split. Now, that $29,000 is 5% of the contract. However, the gross total receipts from the 2014 operation projected by the town was $575,100. That's already a shortfall of $4,900. The rest of this information can be read by any taxpayer who wants to read the contract using these above figures. But I do not understand any of the figures on item number 3 for tonight's agenda. An increase in general accounting practices is a positive figure. A decrease is a negative figure. but the figures are plus 410 minus 410 equals 0. In accounting, we call that a wash. Just changing our cost centers is what line 3 is doing. The proper cost center should be out of Broadacres and into Applied Golf, plain and simple. My other question is, why 410,000? We should get a profit and a loss statement from Applied on the 15th of the month, each month when they get paid. We should also get certified payroll records at that same time. Applied is managing this property, and the taxpayers are footing the bill. Each and every taxpayer is entitled to know the finances and what is going on the monthly basis. You, the town board, should know what is going on finances regarding the monthly, on a monthly basis, not at the end of November or December of 2014. Are we making money? Are we losing money? If you go above the 2% property tax cap, we will not get a rebate from the state. And each and every one of you up there will have to answer to the taxpayer.
Thank you. We have some other folks signed up to speak, and we might come back around and talk a bit about golf. But I have Michael Mandel. Shoot. Oh, I just messed up the timer. Go ahead, Michael. I'm not.
-3, okay.
-3.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and members of the Town Board. For the record, I am Michael Mandel, a resident of Pearl River. Before I comment on the agenda, I'd just like to let the taxpayers of this town know that the fireworks display and concert held in the Pearl River on Central Avenue Field on the 4th of July was financed without government funding. The event was paid for by donations from residents and businesses, customers at ShopRite or Pearl River who made cash contributions in front of the store, and money made as a result of the Pearl River Carnival. These funds were used by the Pearl River Parks and Activity Committee, comprised of volunteers not associated with the Orangetown Parks and Recreation Department. To all those who donated and to the volunteers who contacted businesses, stood in front of the storefront of ShopRite, and worked the Carnival ticket booth, as well as the Pearl River School District for letting us use their field for the events, thank you. This is what makes Pearl River the town of friendly people. Regarding the comments by the previous speaker, I totally concur. How can we make monthly payments to Applied Golf without receiving a monthly status report, which is a profit and loss statement for review? We cannot wait until the end of 2014 to find out if Broadacres has lost more or less money than when the town ran it. Both have an effect on the budget process. Contract with Applied Golf cost over $500,000 of taxpayers' money. However, the budget will have been passed prior to the finding out of the answer. Have they lost or have they gained money? Are they profitable for us, or should we get rid of them? There's no way to run a business, and this is what it's all about. That is a business, that golf course, and it should be done properly, and if not, plus we should be finding out how to lease it out rather than rent it out or hire them as a management consultant. We should be paying off the bond we owe on it and leasing it to them, and this way they hold the whole bag and we won't be giving them all this extra money. We're giving them $410,000 according to this. What about the $200,000 that's transferred over to them? That seems like more than $580,000 to me, unless that's the state or government accounting rules, which are different from most rules. Finally, item number 2, we're talking about hiring Harbridge, a consulting group, to perform a risk assessment on the Affordable Care Act. Number 1, what happened to the cost of that? I thought it was $17,000. Is it more than 17 or less than 17? It was in the workshop. And if you read the bill, which most people haven't, you would know that the Cadillac tax plan usually refers to health care premiums for a plan that costs approximately $24,000. And I don't think there's any plan in this town that even goes close to that. Also, the use of that could equal a potential penalty of $600,000 is a scare tactic, which I don't think should be used in this concept. HR, our human resource people know how many hours people work. how many are full-time, how many are part-time. The way the Health Care Act was written, 30 hours or more, unless they've changed it again, and who knows how many things they've changed, was a part-time employee was less than 30 hours, and they don't have to be supplied with a health care plan. So this is things that we should be looking at rather than paying them, and now that we don't even know how much it is, I think it should be stated before any vote is taken.
Now,
Thank
that
you.
was on the, before, I think it was, is it $10,000, Chef? Yes, 10K.
10,000?
Right.
Should be stated.
Thanks for pointing that out. Somehow that fell off there. I have the CSEA president written here. That would be Mr. Brennan.
Good evening. Andy, I have a couple of questions. Tom brought up a great thing, procedure.
Did you say, I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Tom brought up a great point, procedure. We filed the grievance. We went through the grievance process with the state, with PERB. The employee was granted the wish for her payment. We came back to you and the town board, and we were told, sue us, we're not giving the employee the money. What is the sense of having a procedure, just like we have a contract, just like this appointment tonight? You guys decided, and I say you, because you put it on the agenda, to bypass an employee who has 27 years' experience, took that
What are you referring to?
your secretary job. You know what I'm referring to.
Actually, I didn't.
Okay,
You didn't
well,
specify
it's
it.
on the agenda.
Right.
The lady that you're giving the job to never took the civil service test, is not an employee here. We have an employee who's capable, who's qualified, more than qualified, but personal feelings on this board, again, personal feelings have gotten in the way of people advancing in this town. And I will guarantee you, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, there will be a grievance that's going to go to Albany because we have a procedure and we have processes, and all we hear is we can't make a decision. I have a 3-year grievance outstanding on sewer operators, but we can get this person in, we can hire this person, we can take care of this person, and you know something? It's going to stop. And I blame you because you're the guy that doesn't want to put anything on the agenda.
Well, maybe while we're at it, we can figure out how to make this thing work easier. We have Cynthia Anselmo from Palisades.
I want to talk about an issue, it may not seem important to a lot of people, but because it's in my backyard now, it's very important to me, and that issue is bamboo. Several municipalities in Long Island have banned it. Westchester, a couple of municipalities have banned it. Closer to home is Piermont, that enacted an ordinance that controls bamboo. I tried to, get relief from going through the courts that way, figuring somebody could control the bamboo. So I brought the matter before the courts, and all it got me was the fact that I have to pay for half of a barrier to be put in. I have to pay for part of removal of a tree, which is questionable whether it's even on my property. And not only that, they could not order removal of the bamboo, but they were able to order me to allow access on my property for them to maintain their bamboo. So something's got to be done in the town to, correct this. I have photographs here of what I've been going through as far as bamboo blocking my driveway. I don't have ingress and egress in certain weather conditions. So there has to be something that controls it. Piermont enacted something or amended their ordinance back in November.
Keep going. I've got a different timer going. You got
Okay.
about a minute and a half.
They enacted, amended their ordinance back in November that controls the whole issue of bamboo. And I would suggest and would hope that the board would consider following that enactment that they did, that they follow it in Orangetown and all the hamlets and everything in Orangetown. Because I don't know whether it's come before the board before.
Not that I know of.
Well, that's why I say it may not seem to be an important issue to a lot of people because they haven't been affected with it.
We're
But not
listening to you.
not everybody lives next to a nice neighbor. And if there's something happens with your neighbor and all of a sudden now you have bamboo that's planted on the property line, I have photographs that show right up my whole driveway, I have bamboo trees growing. And if anybody knows anything about bamboo, they're very hard to get rid of, very hard to control.
So do you have a sample of this ordinance or something?
Yes, I have it right here.
All right, if you could leave that with the board for us to to read, that would be great.
Okay, yes, and I have also a couple of other articles about the other towns that have banned bamboo and what other things that they may have enacted. And also, just to, to mention it, as of January 2013, Governor Cuomo signed legislation that prohibited the sale, possession, and transportation of these plants in New York. And there is also now New York case law where they talk about the environmental conservation, that bamboo, you have to have a permit in order to introduce bamboo. So there has to be some sort of control. Again, like I said, I have photographs here that show how wild it grows on up my property line. And again, I tried recourse with the courts, and I told you what the outcome of that was. So while it may be too late for me, I just think that the town needs to enact something to control it.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If you would make sure your contact information is on that submission,
I will.
we'll take a look at it.
And I'll leave, I'll leave all of these articles on the bamboo.
Thanks. Is your
Okay.
contact info on there?
No, I'll put
Okay,
it
if you
on.
could just write it on there, email address, phone number,
Okay.
that'd be great. And the address that you're talking about. Our next speaker is Esther Baitler from Spark Hill. Esther, I've had a slightly different clock going here, not that you need all that time, but just so you know, because that one's not working.
Thank you.
I got it.
Good evening, Supervisor Andy Stewart and Town Board members. My name is Esther Ann Baylor, and I'm a consumer who lives at the Kathy Lukens Independent Living Center in Spark Hill. I'm here to say thank you to all of you and the Highway Department for working very, very hard in getting our sidewalks. However, we have a problem. We have a consumer who cannot walk to work on the back of the trail of our building. He has to walk in the middle of traffic on 340 to work at Stop and Shop, 7 days a week. I'd like to know why the trail hasn't been cleaned out. There's been coyotes and
You talking about the rail trail? The rail trail you're talking about?
Yeah, on
Okay.
the back of our building. I mean, they should put some kind of cleaning stuff on the back of the trail. It's not safe for our people to have to walk in the middle of the road to go to work 7 days a week at Stop and Shop. I'd like to know what can be done.
All right, if it has to do with the rail trail, we'll take a look at it. The town maintains that.
It's really awful.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I just want to thank everybody for the hard work in getting our sidewalks. And to Dennis Troy and John Edwards and everybody for signing off. Again, have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you, Esther. Next up, we've got Elaine Armaniaco.
Sorry for the mix-up with the calendar days.
Thanks.
My name is Elaine Armaniaco, and I represent a coalition, a neighborhood coalition, the Greenbush Neighborhood Coalition, and I know most of you know that we are seeking to preserve a parcel in Orangetown, in Blauvelt specifically, that where one of the only dinosaur tracks in the state of New York were found. Certainly an accessible site for further study that's already been outlined by a local paleontologist, as you all well know. We are very concerned. First of all, before I begin, I just want to congratulate Mary Cardenas. I was at the museum today, and it was a really terrific experience for me. I haven't been there in a while,
That one
so
wasn't
she's doing some really great
bizarre.
stuff. And I meant to say that before. We're a little concerned because at the site, the dinosaur parcel, which is located at 636 Greenbush Road, there was some soil boring tests being done today. As you know, there's I guess there's a petition for a zone change. It was a little unclear to me whether it was an official petition, although it seemed like an official petition. And so anyway, there's some soil boring testings. I tried to get as much information as I can, and what I found out was that there was permission granted from the county health department for 10 boring sites. Dan Miller believes they would probably be approximately 8 inches wide, between 15 and 50 feet deep. John Giardello was kind enough to share with me at the planning department a map where they say they're trying to do it on the perimeter, that where it wouldn't be where the center of the specific areas of interest that were flagged by Dr. Olson, the paleontologist, are. But it just, it's just a concern that could be more damage done to this property, and it just sort of elevates why it's important to have government entities flag this as a parcel that really should be considered as a critical environmental area. It meets a lot of the criteria, as it does meet almost all the criteria for open space preservation. There's this little caveat. History begins with people. And so this is prehistory. There's not a whole lot that's outlined in any of criteria for paleontology, geology, geological significance, and prehistorical significance. And that's why I'm going to Albany, and I'm going to be there on Friday. And I'm working towards getting that, looked at a little bit further. I'm also going to finally see the tracks that are up in the museum. But I also just want to quickly mention that OPDAC, your advisory board, OEC, another advisory board, should be sending you letters soon to reaffirm their position that this should be protected as it already exists in your current comprehensive plan, which is what I shared with you, as well as a letter from Rose Harvey, the Commissioner of the Office of Parks in New York State, because we are working with the Division of Historic Preservation to assess the eligibility for this to be listed on the State and National Registry of Historic Places. So I just continue to ask that you put your heads together and join in our exciting effort, and perhaps talk to the landowner and coordinate with him, and see how we can use the local, county, and state and citizens and all come together to have an outdoor exhibit that would be really exciting for enjoyment and tourism.
We've certainly heard your comments here before, and what you're saying tonight about preservation. We have other people who probably want to speak, but I just want to say I want to recommend later to the town board that we perhaps discuss this Celtic sheet metal zone text change request at our workshop next week, and decide kind of whether we want to refer it or not, and how we want to handle that. That would be my recommendation. But thank you for continuing to keep us informed about the status of that property.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. There are no other people signed in on our sign-up sheet. By a raise of hands, is there anybody here to make public comment at tonight's meeting? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Eric.
Behind
I had a feeling there's some kind of a cut through that you probably.
outside of our easement. That's not our trail.
Right.
Yeah, there's.
Do you know if it's a maintained trail by that property owner, or if it's just
I
sort
would
of an
have to go
informal?
by it and take a look. I really don't know. I just know it's off our property.
I know you can't do work over there. It would just be nice to know if it's sort of an informal trail, or maybe it can
The
be.
aerial I look at that I can see it on, it looks maintained, but that could be a few years old. So.
Right. Well, maybe you could just let me know if we need to reach
Sure.
out to that.
I'll take a look.
Property owner.
Okay.
Any others needing to get up and use the public portion to speak? Okay. Again, motion to close public portion. Can I have a second? Valentine, all in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. All right. Well, a lot of important information brought up. We've heard, we've listened. Anything that gets submitted in writing, I will look at again and distribute as appropriate. At this time, I'd like to go on with our agenda, if everybody's okay with that. The first item, number one, has to do with the scheduling of a town board meeting from July 29th to July 22nd.
Moved.
A motion from Moore, second. Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So there'll be police commission and workshop. He was here, and he intends to meet with us in executive session later. Do you want to try to get him into the room right now for something? Okay. Yep. Number two is the contract with Harbors Consulting Group. It should be noted on there, as I believe it was in the past, that it's a $10,000 contract for analysis and risk management, and those four
Some
items
language
listed.
to the clerk to add to the resolution? The dollar amounts?
Right, amended to state $10,000 value on that.
Not to
Move to
exceed.
discuss.
Motion to discuss from Divany.
Right.
It says that we need to do a study to determine whether the employees are considered full-time employees under ACA. We can't determine that on our own? We need an outside company to do that?
Maybe Jeff, you could take the podium. The bullet points are just a summary of what will be involved in the contract.
Certainly, there is an ever-changing status to this. There's some things that we do know. One thing that I would say is that obviously the costs and the penalties of this are quite severe, at least $600,000 if we are wrong. So that doesn't even include the Cadillac plan. One of the things Mike Mandel said is healthcare plan, $24,000. I actually don't know if that's correct. But right now, we're paying around $20,000 for a healthcare plan for a family. So another 2 years of 10% increases, which has been standard for our hospitalization costs, and we will be up over that $24,000 barrier for the Cadillac plan. Could we do this ourselves? Yes. Are we gonna? This is certainly going to increase the workload on the finance department again, which obviously we're already shorthanded as we speak. That being said, this to me is easy insurance because if we make a mistake, then they're still going to fine us. If Harbridge makes a mistake and they're working with this, then we certainly have recourse to go back against them to recover that penalties, whereas we would not if we do it ourselves.
Does the contract have a guarantee? Like, what does the contract say if they make a mistake? They limit their liability?
We don't have a contract yet. Obviously, we'd have to work through that. Once the board gives approval to pursue this, then we can go ahead and put those provisions in there.
We haven't seen a contract yet?
No.
Okay.
Part of that study is going to look at going back to who's considered a full-time. Now, I would think one of the issues is seasonal, the use of seasonal highway and parks and the summer recreation programs.
Yes,
How
Dennis.
that falls within this abominable act or not.
Abominable care. Yes, the first thing is getting a baseline of where we stand, and because then the board can make informed decisions on, the first criteria is 70%, which I am fully confident we're not even going to come close to that. But in the second year, it's 95%. And so if some of these employees of ours that are part-time and seasonal actually fall into it and we don't know it, that's where we could get into trouble. And so for a relatively minor fee, I believe it's well worth the $10,000 to see where we stand and make sure we don't make any mistakes on this.
If we pass this tonight, are we going to also be approving the contract when it's written?
That would be my intention, yes.
Well, no, I want, not intention, that is what.
Well, you asked me a question, and that would be my intention. If you want that, and
No,
that's
The
certainly,
reason I'm saying, I'm concerned, as I could tell Tom was, that we're okaying something without the contract in front of us. We don't know exactly what we're approving. If there's any kind of guarantees that if they make a boo-boo, we're not on the hook, and I think I would be okay with that. It had to be, we're sort of putting our faith in them, and it is very convoluted, I can tell you, as a small business owner, whether someone is full-time or part-time is not as easy as you would think, because sometimes we use seasonals who work a whole bunch for like 2 months. I think it's a good idea to do this. I'm just concerned. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I would like to see the contract, but I vote to approve $10,000 so that we get the contract level, and then we'll approve it.
So they won't give you a contract unless you approve. Because
It
we
doesn't
have,
make sense, does it?
we have the contract from WD
That's the risk management folks.
that we're
yeah.
voting on right after that. So I don't know anyone who would do business do we have a proposal? Because I can't, of services.
well, they gave us a full presentation, which, they came and presented to the board at a workshop meeting, and that presentation was sent around to
Yeah,
the
and I
board as
wasn't
well.
there. Remember I told you that? I wasn't
Well, I
there.
understand that, Tom, but, the information was sent out and given to you, and I can't,
All right, well, I'll just
you know,
don't know then.
I can't bring them in twice. I mean, I guess I could if,
But why don't we just have the vote once we have the actual full detailed agreement
I think
in
you
front
have
of
the
us?
support of the majority of the
Yeah,
board,
you do. I'm just saying,
but just bring us a contract, and then we'll approve that one shot. That's fair assessment.
Okay.
Right.
Let me just give you the opportunity to chirp once more about the homework you did. I had
The
asked him,
opportunity
had
to
followed up, speaking with a representative in Congress who passed a law to see if her staff could advise us, rather than us having to pay money, to understand the law that was passed by Congress. And we basically said, well, no, we'll answer your questions, but we can't advise you.
That's
Is that, am I
correct.
accurately reflecting your
Yes,
efforts?
that is accurately reflecting the answer I received, yes.
So, one of those hidden costs about this whole thing is all the municipalities that all need to go through this.
There's no doubt about that, and,
One last question. So we're gonna be indemnified 100% if they make a mistake?
I doubt it, I doubt it.
I think we need to see the agreement before we can
No,
say that.
If they gave us this detailed presentation, I'm sure that it would have been in there. They didn't tell us how much they're gonna indemnify us?
well, we will have to look at the contract. Of course, we could look at other consultants to try and do this.
I'm not
Are
saying
any
that.
of
I'd
them
like
going to
to
indemnify us 100%? I
I
would
don't know
probably
if they're
say
gonna or
no.
not. I'd like to know how much we're being indemnified, because we're saying the reason we're doing it is because if we do it,
Well, certainly we have legal recourse, Tom, as you know, as an attorney, that we could
but
sue
how-
them
but
for
if
failure to
the
do their
agreement
job.
says we'll only indemnify you for $20,000, like that would be one of the key terms. How much do they pay if we get fined $600,000? That would be like, the first thing I'd want to know is how much are we going to get back from this company if they mess up? That's the number one concern, because if it's only 20 grand, it's probably more, but, I mean, that's the question I have.
We really need to have the agreement in front of us, I think. I thought there actually was one in the package from before, but
If there is
if
one,
we don't
I'll look
have
at
the
it.
contractor
Vote on
agreement,
it
I
right
don't
now.
see how we can actually vote on, I mean, I think our intention is to hire services to provide this kind of risk management, but we should discuss it next week when we have the agreement set right in front of us.
So you're pulling it then?
That's my suggestion, move to table that motion. I appreciate the comments that Tom just made. We need to have the agreement in front of us, not just a description of what it is. Although we did have a presentation, and I think that the town's going to need to buy that service one way or another. Number 3, we need to have a motion, okay, motion to table this.
Well,
Second, Troy, all in favor, say aye.
Okay, you never took
Aye.
a vote, so, all right.
Okay, we just voted to table it.
All right. And that was,
Made by Troy, seconded by Divany, all in favor?
The ayes have it.
good, okay.
So let's talk about that at workshop next week. Providing
Yeah, if we have the agreement.
providing we have the full agreement to look at. Number 3 has to do with the budget adjustments. Where did Jeff go? Oh, there, sorry. I saw you walk out, just I saw a motion over there. These are budget adjustments related to the Broadacres management contract having been settled after the budget was created. And if you could just say a word or two about the status of this. I know we talked a little bit about it before.
Yeah, what
But
this
just-
is simply, we signed the contract, or the board authorized the contract on February 15th. Obviously, there was a couple weeks before the personnel were let go, so you're looking at 2 months plus of salaries, permanent staff, but then all of that goes away. And so what these budget adjustments are is to increase the contracts with outside vendors by $410,000 and then decrease all of the prior supply or expense lines for Broadacres. So it's a $410,000 increase and a $410,000 decrease. What I would say is that there was also a $70,000 contract for Joe Rafter already in there. So that 410 increases that budget line to 480. So it's still $100,000 short of the 580 we have agreed to apply golf. And so we're going to have to do another budget adjustment later in the year, depending on how Broadacres does in terms of their revenues. And just as we're talking about Broadacres, we do get monthly reports from Broadacres. I'm actually going to meet with Applied Golf tomorrow to get the June numbers. So all we have right now are the May numbers. And what I would say is that through May year to date, Broadacres revenues were down about 1% versus last year. Blue Hill revenues were down about 10%. We all know it's a bad year because they had snow until almost the end of March. So what I would say is we need more time and let's let this play out. But we are managing this and we are looking at both Broadacres and Blue Hill and evaluating both of the golf courses to make sure we minimize the loss or hopefully actually get a profit if possible.
Thanks for clarifying that, Jeff. Any questions from the town board? Make a motion for this resolution. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second from Valentine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Not hearing any. Passes unanimously. Number 4 has to do with increasing the film permit fee. It was a resolution proposed by our town clerk, Charlie Madigan. We discussed before. I'll make a motion for this increase in the fee. Can I have a second?
Second.
For more, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. I actually asked for a little more information, and Teresa Pugh gave me the data. About 3 years ago, you guys did about 23 permits. Last year, you did about 82 or something like that.
Right.
And it's in conversations with the state about the children's hospital facilities, they're getting calls all the time to do movies over there. So there's a lot of demand for.
It's good for the town, it's good for the community, and knock on wood.
And our highway department, police department, and others help coordinate that along with you. So So those guys are getting a lot for their permit fee.
Oh, yeah.
The highway department has 2 adopt a spot items that are described in these 2 paragraphs. I'm just question, Jim, are these new folks, or is this a renewal?
No, the Bataan Road is an existing route, a little bit of a modification.
Gotcha, that's what I thought.
And that's a renewal. Campbell Avenue is brand new.
Well,
Single property owner actually wants to adopt a section across the street from his house, which is town right of way and then backs up to state.
Oh, well, congratulations for signing these guys up, and town benefits from that. I'll make a motion to approve item number 5 for the Bataan Road Triangle. I have a second. Valentine, all in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Someone want to make a motion for number 6 on Campbell Avenue?
Second, move it.
Motion from Moore. Do I hear a second? Second from Troy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Under new business, a couple personnel actions and something from the highway department. Number 7 is the hiring of the secretary, admin secretary 1 for the supervisor's office, shared services. We're very happy to have a wonderful group of candidates for that, and the town board members interviewed everybody and then worked with Donna Morrison to pick who we think is the best person. And the resolution here offers the job to Catherine Murphy at a starting salary of $54,787, and her start date preferred is July 28th. I'll make a motion for that. Can I have a second? Any seconds on that one?
Second.
Second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. And thank you, Donna, for working with us to get all the candidates qualified and set up the interviews. And I thought that process went really well. And I think we've really got a great person coming on board. Number 8, this is an item which has been in the works for a while. It's the establishment of a maintenance electrician position in environmental management. There was a vacancy. The town board asked personnel to work on changing the job description to involve a more of a licensed electrician type of person. We got that information back from Rockland County personnel. The Labor Management Committee had worked together to assign a grade level to that position, which is a 14A, and we are ready to post that new position and see what kind of wonderful candidates we get for that. So this is can I hear a motion to establish this position from Councilman Valentine? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like the ayes have it. Number 9 is a contract with WD Risk Management. That contract has been included in we might want to just take another look because there was a version of it, an early generalized version and then a very specific one for town of Orangetown. This is in the packet I gave you. It's item number 9. And there's just been a little bit of motion on that. We had before, I think on Friday and earlier, we sent an information about what type of risk management agreement it is and a sample contract from West Haverstraw, a description of the service, and so on and so forth. And in this case, we have the actual contract here. John, maybe you could just take a minute to tell us what exactly this contract gets the town, because it is somewhat new information.
The law requires that the town have not merely a workplace violence policy, which we have and have had for a number of years, but an actual plan. And the plan requires, among other things, an evaluation of all of the various town work sites. So that would include town hall, sewer department, highway department, building, parks, an analysis of potential risks to employees in those various venues, means by which to mitigate those risks. It involves the establishment of a labor and management team for the purpose of reviewing, and an overall plan for how to deal with allegations of workplace violence. It's a requirement that was adopted by the state legislature, I think, back in 2008. Initially, we had Gallagher Bassett developed our policy, provided certain training, but we're in arrears, if you will, on that training requirement. The Department of Labor has reviewed where we stand and has cited the town with a violation for not having an adequate plan. So it's a rather detailed evaluation done by a risk assessment company. I had suggested WD Risk because we used them in West Haverstraw. They put together a plan, I don't know, it's 40, 50 pages, going through the different sites there. The county used WD, town of Clarkstown, the town of Haverstraw, and a number of other municipalities statewide. So we need to have a plan. We need to have it in a hurry in order to avoid fines by the Department of Labor. And so this is an agreement which provides all of the services that are required under the state statute, including training.
Yeah, I was going to list the services are listed in the document following the contract. They include not just a written plan, but also running focus group exercises, worksite assessments, designing and implementing and actually conducting training sessions for all town employees, both full-time and part-time, creating the forms needed for incident reports and monitoring, and also a review of our current workplace violence prevention policy. So there's a lot of services in here. This isn't just sort of doing a study and creating a written plan. It's actually implementing it so that we're in compliance with the Department of Labor, and we don't want to get fined by the Department of Labor. Any questions for John on this item? We have a motion from Dennis Troy, second from Moore. We have a motion and a second here. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. John, thank you for giving us that rundown on that. Number 10 is the chip seal program submitted by the Highway Department, the inclusion of the parking lot at 300 Western Highway in Tappan in the program for reimbursement to the town for all costs related to that. Is that a fair description of it?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion for that. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Valentine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays, I'm assuming that's unanimous. Number 11, this is the FESH, of course, is coming up very soon, and this is the wonderful Irish Cultural Dance and Music Festival down at the German Masonic Home. I know they've been working with the Police Department, Highway Department. This is a resolution from the Highway Department regarding barricades, cones, and signage for this event that's coming up on July 20th. I'll make a motion for this.
Second.
Second for Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you to the Highway Department for providing that service. Number 12 is an intermunicipal agreement with the county whereby they give us money, which is always a nice thing, coming from the Homeland Security Program and a grant. And the agreement is provided in here. and it is worth $20,932. I'll make a motion for this resolution. Can I hear a second?
Second?
All right, any questions, comments about this from Police Chief? Chief Nolte, we're discussing the Homeland grant. Everybody all set with that? You had a chance to? All right, I guess there's a grant deadline related to this, so. Hearing no nays, the motion, wait, do we have a vote? All in favor say aye. Aye, all the ayes have it. The motion passes. Town clerk has given us a list of documents received and filed. There are 4 of them. I'll make a motion for passing this resolution. Can I have a second? Hearing one
Second.
from over here. From more, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's the aye. We do have an audit. We have 6 individuals who we want to remember tonight, and we need to go into executive session to get legal counsel on a couple of important topics. And I'm looking for my, let's stick them on that. Jeff, if you could get started on the audit while I look for my list of executive session items, that'd be great.
Okay, today's audit consists of 4 warrants for a total of $1,639,000. The first warrant is 86 vouchers totaling $338,000 for utilities. The second warrant, also for utilities, consists of 21 vouchers totaling $589,000. The third warrant consists of 1 voucher for $50 for our semi-annual J-COPE lobbying fee for the state. And the fourth warrant consists of 393 vouchers totaling $711,000. The following items are of interest there. Numbers 1 and 2, the cost for both golf courses, pro shop services and applied golf. Number 3, $110,000 for sewer relining in Nyack. Number 5, Global Metello Group, $45,000 for fuel. Number 9, Keenan Bean, $16,000 for legal defense fees, a couple separate cases. Number 16, Siemens, $12,000 to replace it, or to repair the train chiller in Town Hall here. No, it was not a catastrophic failure, but quite large failure. Almost at the point where we were going to have to either scrap it and get a whole new unit, or make the repairs. It's over a third of the cost of the repairs. It started off at $8,000 and ended up being over $12,000, but it's over a 50, 60-year-old unit. So that's the problem with Town Hall, is we're in a dilapidated building. Number 18, South Orangetown School District, $44,000 for the pool rentals. And number 20, Tilcon, $35,000 for highway materials. Any questions about the audit?
Is the number 18, the solid waste authority compactor usage, is that a compactor down at the drop-off center? The compactor's down there, right? So we get it from them. Any questions about the audit for Jeff?
Good.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the audit as described in this memo. Can I have a second on that?
Second?
Or more, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Let's not forget to sign that when Jeff gives it to us. As I said before, we're going to do an executive session tonight. Chief Nolte's waiting for that. And we have a number of, we have a few folks we want to remember. And maybe we should do that now. There will be no further town board business or discussion following executive session. I don't know, is there? Clarify for me. The item that Police Chief Nolte wants to talk about has to do with, we have the resumes of 4 candidates for police officer, and he wanted to review those with us. And if town board discusses, reviews, if we want to make appointments, that would happen next week. Well, there's a police commission, so that's one of the things we need to talk about, because we are very concerned about process, and we need to talk with the chief about that, too. The other item is we have another scheduled call with Empire State Development related to the Rockland Psych Center redevelopment process. There will be lawyers in the room, and we want to talk to ours before that. And thirdly, we have an item from the Parks Department related to a legal issue that we want to hear our legal counsel on. Those are the three items for executive session. But before going into executive session, let's remember 6 important people in the town. And just tell me, members of the town board, if there's anybody you want to speak in terms of remembering specifically. We have Edna Stewart from Pearl River.
Also, she was president of, out of Pearl River, but also Gulf Village for a long time.
Florence Dosch from Orangeburg.
Dosh,
Thank you for that.
a resident of Pearl River, had a large family, like almost an icon in Pearl River. You can see her walking the streets, very active in the churches, and be sorely missed. Tom O'Halloran, I don't think we can say enough about, another icon. His wife Marion worked in the town attorney's office for many years. Tom O'Halloran was part of, I don't know, I think the Korean War, was it? Is a war veteran, very, yeah, will be sorely missed by a large number of his golfing friends. Margaret DeFury, again, somebody in Pearl River. Her husband Luke survives her and her children. She'll be sorely missed. Great personality, a great presence to everybody that she ever met. Great sense of humor. Marilyn Rose, not only was she the owner of the Pearl Shop, but I think she was the first woman in Rotary in Pearl River. And she'll be remembered for not only her business of the Pearl River Shop, which I think was famous with everybody, but I think being the first woman to join Rotary in Pearl River was a very big step and took a lot of guts for her to do.
Very good for her. I happen to have know the family of Mr. Calvin Parker, age 60, passed away. The Parker family is a very prominent African-American family in Nyack. Louise Parker is a village trustee. Minerva Parker, everybody knows if you go to Nyack Library. She's been working there for many years. And his passing at age 60 is way too soon. And our condolences go out to the Parker family along with the rest of the families that we're remembering tonight. Thank you for filling us in on some of their biographies. With that, I make a motion to adjourn and a motion to go into executive session. Can I have a second? Second for Dimmy. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it.